So Casey is the founding director of the Campus Computing Project, the largest continuing study of the role of e-learning and information technology in American colleges and universities. Campus computing is widely cited, including by me, as a definitive source for data, information, and insight about IT planning and policy issues affecting higher education. He also serves as the director of the Digital Fellows Project of the Association of Chief Academic Officers, or the ACAO, the Provost Association, and is also the moderator and co-producer of To a Degree, which is the post-secondary success podcast by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Casey is the author or editor of some 20 books and published research reports and more than 100 articles and commentaries that have appeared in academic journals, professional publications. His digital tweed blog is published by Inside Higher Ed, and I wore this tweed jacket as an homage to Casey today. In 2002, Green was recognized as the first EDUCAUSE Award for Leadership in Public Policy and Practice. The EDUCAUSE Award cites his work in creating the Campus Computing Project and recognizes his prominence in the arena of national and international technology agendas and the linking of higher education to those agendas. A graduate of New College, Green has earned his PhD in higher education and public policy at the University of California, Los Angeles. So help me please welcome Casey Green.
I want to talk this morning about innovation, infrastructure, and digital learning. My friend, colleague, and occasional co-conspirator Jim Pazinski was very kind in his opening remarks. Let me just sort of supplement that a little bit in terms of campus computing was launched in 1990 as a way to provide benchmarking data for institutions to see how do we compare to peer institutions on a variety of IT planning and policy issues. This is the ACAO Digital Fellows Project. There are 31 institutions, including UNC General Administration or the System Office and UNC Charlotte. The campuses, the provosts are participating in this initiative. Unlike traditional fellowships, which are about an individual portfolio, this is very much about provosts helping to create a portfolio of resources that work and maybe some stuff that doesn't work, and cautionary statements to other institutions, to their peers, about the role of digital learning in post-secondary institutions. So let's move forward. I want to talk about great expectations for information technology to sort of provide a long-term frame for our conversation. Books will be obsolete in public schools. Have you heard this recently? Yeah. Scholars will be instructed through the eyes. So I don't have to read the rest of this for you. This is Thomas Edison. And he's talking about what was then called motion pictures. And he's talking about motion pictures in July 1913, 15 years before the first talkie, as a role of how technology will transform education. It's kind of a marker in terms of thinking about the role of technology and great aspirations on the part of both people within education, K-12 and higher ed, and outside of education, in terms of the potentially transformative value and the power of various kinds of technologies. So let's ask the question, what is digital learning? There's a great deal of ambiguity about what is digital learning. So let's look at some efforts to try to define it. The first comes from Courseware and Context, from Titan Associates, which has done some work for the Gates Foundation, trying to put an anchor in the ground, put a stake in the ground about what constitutes digital learning. It's a solution with the potential to support student-centered learning at scale in post-secondary education. With due respect to the folks at Titan, that statement needs a decoder ring, doesn't it? In terms of trying to explain what that means. While millions of students use digital courseware today, significant opportunity remains for effective digital courseware. That one's pretty straightforward. We recognize the power and potential of technology. It's ever arriving, and we're beginning to actually see real evidence, as opposed to opinion and epiphany, that some of this stuff works in a lot of different, in some interesting and important ways. So technology is a conversation about change, isn't it? And every time we reach for technology, personally and organizationally, it means we're going to change something. And at the risk of imposing a California story on North Carolinians, let's ask the question, how many psychologists in California does it take to change a light bulb? So you have an answer.
One, but the light bulb has got to want to change.
That's almost right. In fact, none. The light bulb has to want to change. Then you can change the light bulb. You have to express a willingness to change and then somebody can change the light bulb for you. But that's a good metaphor for what we have in higher education. We talk about change a lot. We talk about the need for change. Of course, none of you need to change. It's some of your colleagues who are not with us today, right? That's often a laugh line and sometimes even an applause line. You can applaud, or some of you are nodding your heads. But a lot of the conversation about technology is a conversation about risk, and it's a conversation about change. And it's not about the technology in and of itself. It really isn't. And there's a story about Eisenhower shortly after the announced appointment, but before the formal investiture. He's walking across the campus with the provost at Columbia, talking about a number of key institutional policy issues. And there's one issue the provost explains to the general, that in fact there is a big difference of opinion between the faculty and the administration. And Eisenhower, given that he came of age in military command and control cultures, turns to the provost and he says, why doesn't the university simply tell the faculty what to do? To which the provost, without missing a beat, says, General, the faculty are the university. The university are the faculty. And in our conversation about digital pedagogy, it's essential that we remember that fact. That the conversation about going digital is a conversation about faculty and students. It's not a conversation about the technology. The technology is a tool, it's a resource that may or may not work. And I want to be very clear about that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Often, at least to date, we make a lot of these decisions and investments based on opinion, epiphany, and good intent. If we're going to succeed in our conversation about digital pedagogy, faculty have to feel it works. Faculty have to know that this stuff makes a difference. Faculty have to feel safe and protected in this process. And until we bring data, on this I'm very strongly aligned with President Spellings. Until we bring data, it's not going to be compelling for faculty members to make these investments. It's not going to be safe for faculty members to make these investments. That part is part of the infrastructure as well. My survey data, at the risk of shameless self-promotion, barely a third of institutions do the evaluation of their IT investments in instruction. Really? Doesn't make any sense. So on this, I'm very much aligned with President Spellings. And it was in the wake of the Spellings Commission 11 years ago, I wrote a long article for the EDUCAUSE Review. Bring data to the conversation. That's my background, that's my commitment, that's what I say to you. Data becomes part of the infrastructure, but again, I want to emphasize, it's data as a resource, not as a weapon. With that, let me end. Thank you very much.